Welcome to the Shimano Library. It is time for the last round of the Color Clash tournament, and the final time we're going to see if the Blue Fliers deck will be any good. So far, the deck has performed poorly. There was a solid idea in the design, but it seems that I underestimated what other colors could do and what my deck was capable of. Right now, our result is solid 0-3, and we're simply fighting to get our first match win. For the final time, here is the list we are running. It is a fairly simple Blue Fliers deck that tries to curve out small threats, buff them up, and tempo out the opponent. There are a couple of big hitters in the deck, mainly Ghost Ship and Elemental, and some buffs to get more out of those smaller creatures. From what we've seen in the previous games, it is fairly easy to get a basically unblockable threat in play that can start doing some damage. What the deck has so far lacked is punching power. The Serendip Efreets would have been nice, but those have encountered so much hate from the opponents that we haven't just been able to use them at all. Be it City in a Bottle or Source to Plowshares, there always seems to be something that has prevented them from doing basically anything. And you may notice that there is no counter magic at all, as that was one of the core ideas of this deck. I wanted to do something different with blue and go a little off the beaten path. Let's just hope and see if this is the time when we get to curve out and fly over our opponent's defenses. But before we go down to the table, take a moment and hit the like button and subscribe so you can keep up with everything new in the Shimano Library. And it is game number 1. My opponent is having a little camera issues with the glare, so I'll try to help you out with all the cards that are played, because some of them are pretty difficult to see. Right here, starting with Savannah Lions, and here you can exactly see, or better yet, you can't really see what that is. For me, it's a decent start. You get an Ancestral Recall on turn 1, and you know things are starting out right. But we are facing a white deck, so that's gonna be a little issue, especially if this is a White Weenie deck, what that lion is also kinda showing. As a Fear Falcons for me, and I do have a Serendip Efreet in hand, so if that lion is gonna be offered as trade, I will take it probably immediately. Because the Falcon, even though it is a good starting threat, it's not gonna do much against any other of my opponent's threats than that Savannah Lion, so it is fairly easy to kind of just jump it out and remove that threat if they are offering it before they get the Crusade in. And yeah, are they thinking about it? But yes, no, yes, no. Let's see, what's my opponent's decision here? They are thinking about exactly that would I trade it? And yes, they are attacking, and of course, I will immediately block with the Falcon. 2 white mana, and that is a White Knight. Yeah, pretty much exactly what I expected to see. Another threat in, but at least my Serendip Efreet is going to be bigger than the Knight. And if this is going to be a race, well, it is an equal race in that sense that the Serendip is going to be dealing 1 damage to me, and the Knight will be dealing the other third. But I get to go first with the attacks, but let's see, 1 mana, and it is Swords to Plowshares. Pretty much what you expected to see here. And there is a Crusade. Now we are getting some problems here. Up to 23 and down back to 20 with that attack. White Knight with a Crusade backed up, that's gonna be a kind of a difficult place for us, because many of our cards are weaker than that. But as this is a Weenie deck, I'm gonna be a little aggressive with the Strip Mines. I wanna get rid of their lands if that happened to be the only 3 that they held. Now, will that pay out or not? That's a different question. And let's go for the flip. And boom, it is a clean hit. And the Knight is no more. Now, there was a good option, like, would I want to destroy more lands? get rid of the Crusade, or just get rid of the threat. All viable options. And there are the fungus clergies. Now the automatic regeneration of those funguses is not going to be an issue here. Looking at how much mana I have available, paying a little extra, that's not going to be a problem here. But the fact that they are 2/2 now with the Crusade in play, that's well, it's a race. But I do have my Sunken City in, so we're on an equal footing at this moment. And just putting the upkeep cost tucked away there so that I don't forget to pay it. And more White Knights. Now, and that's a situation I'm not happy to be in. White Knight is it is a solid creature in that deck, and it can punch a lot of damage through. The first strikes makes all the blocks basically a lose-lose situation for me, because yeah, I can jump them with a lot, but I don't really have a way of getting rid of it that easily. And I'm staying behind at this point, because this is somewhat of a problematic situation, because I don't really know how I can get like a decent amount of damage through and try to control the board. But I am going to block the clergy and pay for the regeneration, so that we don't have to deal with that again. It'll stem the bleed a little bit, but I hope I have something better to show. Tundra Wolves for my opponent, more first striking creatures, and once again with that Crusade in play, things are not looking that good. But fortunately, I have another Serendip Efreet, and with that Sunken City in play, that's a 4/5 threat, and that's a good way to start things off. Now we can just cross our fingers and hope that that Efreet is gonna live more than one turn. Opponent is thinking hard about the situation. They still have quite a hand of cards. I have only 2, and they are attacking with the White Knight. Most likely they do have a buff, but at this point there's a problem that for the life of me, I could not remember what is a white instant speed buff. And I am thinking long and hard about this. Can I block it? Is this a complete bluff, or is there a boost spell waiting there? And I am going for the block. Either way, because I want to take it out of their hand, but it was an Army of Allah. Well, I did not just remember that. The funny thing is that it's about 2 weeks before, I think a week or 2 before this match, I got my own Army of Allahs in the mail. And I could not remember that card existed at this point. So that one's on me. But at least I have control magic. I can take their knight and kind of take control of the situation. The Crusades are now going to backfire on them, and I get to kind of gain a little advantage of the situation. Gain a little power to punch through. 3/3 first striker against their 2/2 first striker is going to be a good way to go. Interestingly though, the Tolaria that we have in play could actually be useful in this matchup. They are playing white, so we could assume that there's going to be a Benalish hero or maybe a Mesa Pegasus in there, in which case it really is helpful to actually be able to strip the banding from them to gain more control over the combat situation. And speaking of combat, my opponent is swinging with the wolves now that they still can, because if I ever leave that White Knight back to block, they're not going to be able to do anything. Yeah, but I believe racing is the correct way to do. The faster I can close this game, the better it is. Dropping them with 17, playing a ghost ship, which is also now 3 powered thanks to the Sunken City. I am currently sitting at a fairly nice place. Though this being a white deck, they can actually turn the tables really quickly. They do have sweepers, and Swords to Plowshares is one of the cards I am in a way afraid, because that's a way to deal with all of my threats. But the faster I can end this game, the better it is. So I'm gonna be pushing out all the damage that is possible. No more chumping, no more basically anything like that. And my opponent is playing a land tax. A land tax with a board like this is obviously gonna be feeding them with lands. I'm so far ahead. I'm at 7 lands to their 4, so odds are that they are always going to be drawing all the lands they want. So I'm going to be swinging out with everything. Let's see. My opponent does chump. Now the good question is this just to stem the bleed, or is there a wrath? And that is really a good question, because if they do have a wrath, it's going to be extremely annoying. But if they don't, I think I can just end this game quickly. And now the question is, do I want to walk into that or not? I think I will. At this point, the air elemental is gonna be... It's a risky move, I know, but here's hoping, because if they do not have a wrath, I can punch so much damage through. The game is over in a heartbeat. Even one good swing with the whole team would be massive. 3, 6, and 11 points of damage, dropping down to 3, which is a psionic blast range. That is a lot. If there is a wrath, it's gonna screw me over, but it really is what it is. At this point, it's just I just have to try it. It may be the wrong choice, but something's gotta be done. I gotta start pushing through and hoping for the best. So just fingers crossed, hope they do not have it, and let's see if I can punch through and end the game quickly. Opponent going for the draw. Did they actually forget the draw? But nah, going for it. They do remember it. Let's see. The suspense is killing me. What's gonna be going on the next turn? And yeah, that's a Wrath of God. Yeah, it was a risky play and I knew that, but I assumed I was gonna at least get one hit out of that. The White Knight's gone. My board is also empty. Now, the good news is I am the one who gets to rebuild first, but the bad news is only one card in hand and drawing a second one. Let's see if I can find a threat now. And unfortunately, I do not. That's a skip turn for me. Unfortunately, I do have enough mana so I can just keep on paying for that sunken city for basically as long as I want. My opponent can just keep on thinning out those lands, and they're gonna be basically drawing out gas for the rest of the game at this point. They've already taken out 6 planes from that deck, and they have played 4 currently, so from that I could assume probably maybe 10 lands left in the whole deck. And the question is, do they play Armageddon or not? I would be more banking on the fact that they have Armageddon than a Wrath of God, so I probably will be just holding more lands in my hand just to make sure that if they're gonna wipe the board of all the lands, I have something to rebuild with. And 5 lands already in play that are active. In addition to the Sunken City cost, it's quite likely that I won't be needing any more. Opponent's getting more mana with the Sol Ring. And are they going for it? There's 4 mana. And yeah, there's the Armageddon, just as I expected. My board's gonna be completely cleaned out. Now that I can't even afford to pay the Sunken City, that's gonna go away as well. Now, the tables are clean for both of us pretty much. And we're just hoping to get something out of this. Some gas, some creatures to get the damage through. Luckily for me, I did kind of guess that the Armageddon was coming, so I just started holding lands earlier on. But how quickly can my opponent close the game out? 7 Alliance is a good way to go. 3-2 at this point, that's gonna be a tight race if we're gonna have to go with this. Sapphire Falcons for me, not gonna do much when they are basically at the same life as I am and hitting much, much harder. But at least if something good comes out of this, they won't be using the land attacks for a good while now. The lions are swinging in, not gonna jump it, there's no point of doing that. Swinging in with the falcons, ticking them down a little bit. And there's a Serendip Efreet. Now that's a good puncher. Now let's just guess. How many turns does this Serendip Efreet get to stay in play? Because I've had a fairly bad run with all of those Efreets. I don't remember exactly, but I don't think I have basically connected with any of them at this point. 1 mana and yeah, there's the Swords to Plowshares. That streak is not going to be cut at this point. The Serendip Efreets are not going to be doing anything. And the good question is it a good creature to put in this deck? Well, in a way, yes it is. Of course, 3 mana 3/4 is going to be a great beater, but they are going to be drawing all the hate from my opponents. Every single City in a Bottle, every single Swords to Plowshare, Terror, everything, that's going to be targeted immediately into those Serendips. And I get another Sapphire Falcon in play. Now would be a really good time to draw the second Sunken City and try to get some more damage in before that lion completely wrecks me. I am currently empty-handed, down to 9 life. The situation is not looking that good. What I can at this point hope for is either getting more buffs for those creatures or maybe a bounce spell or two to kinda tempo out the lions, make sure that it will not be connecting every single turn. Maybe every once in a while is okay. But I got 5 turns. It's not gonna be easy to kill them. They have a 3-turn clock, I have a 5-turn clock. At this point, I may be able to double block the lion to get those at least some of the bleeding done, some of the bleeding out. But the clergy of is the next problem for me. They have raised the stakes. They are now at 5 damage per turn, and for me, it's flying men. Not really what you wanted to see at this point. I wanted maybe something a bit bigger. But now the question, is this game going to be over soon? They are going to be pushing a lot of damage through here. And there's this is an interesting position because my opponent could just keep on swinging and try to close the game, or they're gonna try to do something a bit more drastic and kinda get the board clean, to make it even harder for me to deal damage. Swing in, am I gonna be jumping at this point? I doubt. I'm gonna be dropping down to 1 life, because right now I don't think there's a single way for me to really be dealing 8 points of damage in one go. There's 1 card in my hand, and my opponent is really in the tank with this. Kind of feels, in a way, feels a little weird because I think the situation is fairly clear. They should just be pressuring me as much as they can, because my creatures are going to be much smaller. Sure, they have no way of basically blocking anything I have. White deck like that, there's gonna be probably a Serra Angel in there. They may have a Thunder Spirit or 2. Mesa Pegasus is possible, but not the likeliest option. So it is possible that all my creatures are basically unpluggable for them for most of the time. So these are apparently tough decisions for my opponent. 4 mana, what is the thing they've been thinking about? It's another Wrath of God. Now that is a strange choice. Yeah, I'm not going to be stopping that because I don't really have a way of kind of. No, well, first of all, I do not have any counterspells, so I won't be won't be stopping that in any sense. But is my opponent so afraid that the fact that my card in hand would be an unstable mutation and I may top deck another one? And here's a opponent being a little gentleman here, like trying to remind me that the clergy, I need to pay the extra mana to make sure that they are not going to be regenerated, but I had to remind them that Wrath of God will do that for me. I don't actually have to pay the one for that, even though I would have the mana to do so. But of course we're playing with gentleman's rule in that sense that we allow little takebacks and all this sort, because this is not that serious gameplay, and of course we're in the zero bracket currently, so neither of us is going to be fighting over any major wins here. The question is just going to be which one of us is going to end up with 0 points in the tournament and which is going to get their first win. But for now, I got my first threat in, they have nothing, and the Sapphire Falcon's going to be starting its work. It's got 7 more turns to go. Now there is one option I do have, and that is that if I draw a Psionic Blast, I have like a panic button option to just kill us both in a couple of turns. The Mishra's Factory, that's going to help me deal damage. If they are not going to get anything down at this point, I'm going to start pushing in a decent amount of damage. 3 points a turn, that's going to speed up the clock a lot. But that right there is the biggest problem I'm going to be having. Serra Angel. Serra Angel with a Crusade in play means that there isn't really a way that I can deal with it. My Air Elemental would have been able to fight it, but the Crusade making it 5/5, it's gonna be a problem. So now the question just remains: can I survive this, or am I just completely dead at this point? How far can I push this match? It is a funny thing, though, that at this point I have been able to stay in play for a surprising amount of time. And there's an unsummon for the Angel, so we get one more turn out of this, start dealing a little damage, try to get them down a little. And like I said, the Psionic Blast option is now live. They are at 4 life, I can, with 1 blast, kill us both, make this a tie. That's a panic button option if I can't deal with the Angel in any other way. But now let's see. The Angel's probably gonna keep coming back. My opponent's playing the lands they drew with the land tax. There's the Serra Angel again. And the turn is mine. Now, one thing I would be hoping, more unsummons, more boomerangs. Try to just get the Angel out of the way. But a Dance of Many. Now there's an interesting option. Now we both have an Angel. And here's one of those, the one again situation where the old cards are just more fun because they are symmetrical. That Crusade is helping both of us. So we both have a 5/5 flying creature. This also makes the situation kind of interesting in the sense that which of us is willing to do the trade. Because we both are dead if we attack. We have to block them. That's a guarantee at this point. They're at 4 life and I'm at 1. So which one is willing to offer their Angel for a trade? For me, it would mean that I get my mana back, but for them, they don't have any other ways of dealing with the flying creatures. They have a new White Knight, a super White Knight that glares so much that the card is completely white, but it is a White Knight. Going for 4 mana is... Ooh, I'm sensing something bad. that may have been a giveaway that they might have an Armageddon. They are swinging with the Angel, and if they have an Armageddon, I must block with the Dance of Many, because I will be losing it because I can't pay the upkeep cost. So let's see now. Yeah, they attacked it, and of course I will block it, because, well, blocking is mandatory, but I'm giving away the Angel at this point. Because if it is an Armageddon, it's better for me this way. And my opponent played a land, which may have... Yeah, it may have been a little mistake here. Yeah, that's the Armageddon right there. And the situation got dire again for me. They have a White Knight, I have a Sapphire Falcon, I have no lands. They probably still do have a couple in their hands for the from all the land taxing they did earlier. And the turn is now mine. Let's hope I can get an island, and at this point actually I'm thinking, like, do I have any real outs? Because the problem is I'm gonna just jump block it at this point, but drawing a land, and like, what can I do with 1 mana? I can play Flying Men, which is another jump blocker. I can play Unsummon, which would temporarily save me, because currently they can't replay their White Knight with only 1 land. Most likely they have another one in hand. But let's see. Is this draw any good? No. Lands I do have, but a Sunken City is not gonna save me. That's game for the white deck. And we are heading down to game number 2. I get to be on the play again, and let's see if this is gonna play out a little better for me, and so I don't have to kind of be the underdog for the whole entire game. Get something out of that one. Clergy of the Holy Nimbus again from my opponent. The Clergy is gonna be annoying, but not really a threat, especially when I have the Maze of Ith to keep it at bay. The Maze is gonna be really helpful here, unless they're gonna be just going too wide and making my life more miserable in that sense. But let's see how bad the situation is gonna be. Opponent just doing the maze check and making sure I keep it tapped. And there is a White Knight. Okay, so the maze is gonna have a new target right about now, because 2 points of damage is more than 1, and that's a obvious choice. But now the question comes to me, like, do I need to kind of do something about the fact that they are gonna get a lot of damage through here? Land attacks, that's once again annoying, but not gonna be the biggest problem. The land count is low for both decks, so not really that much of an issue here. Opponent kinda going for the attack, but not yet going for the attack. They forgot that, yeah, they have a Crusade in hand, they want to be playing that first. So 1 point of extra damage incoming. But I think we need to kind of slow things down a little bit here. Boomerang for the White Knight and Maze of Ith for the Clergy of the Holy Nimbus. This buys me basically an extra turn, maybe 2, depending on the count. But thanks to that Maze of Ith, I'm probably gonna have to keep feeding them lands right from the start, because 2 mana, even though most of my deck will run on 2, my hand currently is not that low, so I gotta play the Factory, and the Factory is especially gonna be important in keeping their attacks at bay. The Maze of Ith can deal with the White Knight, and the Factory can block the Clergy and pump itself to keep it alive and try to kind of make sure if they attack they lose something. And I do have enough mana to do so, I just have to wait until the summoning sickness clears. And now, one option my opponent does have is that if they do not play their first land now, they are guaranteed to get a second batch of lands, which would be enough for the rest of the game, but they are gonna be playing that second Plains after the White Knight, because I am assuming the White Knight's gonna be coming down. Maze of Ith for the clergy. There is the White Knight back in action, and they are just passing the turn, but Psionic Blast to the White Knight. I think I do need to get rid of their stronger creatures, especially now that the Crusade is in play. Those Psionic Blasts are not gonna be enough to kill the Serra Angels. I would be needing so much more. And the fourth land for me, I do need to play a little extra just to get the fourth mana producing land in addition to that Maze of Ith. That is always the downside of playing mazes in your deck. If your opponent has land tax in, that maze is not going to produce any mana, and the opponent is going to get guaranteed land draws for their hand. And they are fetching even more basics. Now, one of the lovely features of land tax is that you are thinning your deck and you are making sure that every card you draw after that is gonna be good. And with a deck like White Weenie, that is crucial because the single cards may not be strong, but the sheer mass of creatures and buff spells and small removal stuff and eventual Armageddon is gonna just build up if you're guaranteed to draw some gas every single turn and never start flooding with your draws. The opponent's going for the fifth land. Now at this point I probably should stop playing lands and kind of keep them all in hand just in case there's gonna be an Armageddon. And there is the Swords to Plowshares for my ghost ship. So no blocking for me quite yet. And my opponent's kind of thinking hard. Always going for that maze check, and always the maze is gonna work. That's not something I will be forgetting quite soon. They are even discarding for hand size, getting rid of those extra planes. This just means basically that they want to thin out the deck. They do not care if they have to discard those lands because it just means they're going to be drawing good cards. The Phantasmal Forces, that's going to be something nice here. I'm going to start pushing some damage through. The Phantasmal Forces hasn't really shown much good here. Goblin Balloon Brigades was the last time we saw them, and the goblins were able to keep them at bay just by threatening to fly over and jump and block them. And my opponent is taking his time, thinking about his moves, carefully planning out every action. And it is kind of worked really well for them at this point. So, what are we looking at right now? 4 damage, 5 turn clock. And there is the enemy of Phantasmal Forces, the desert. Yeah, the desert's gonna make sure that I'm not gonna be attacking quite soon here. And another White Knight enters the battlefield. This may look a little troubling for me, but at least right now I have a decent jump blocker. I can take out most of their non-first strike creatures with the Phantasmal Forces. I have the Maze of Ith and I have Mishra's Factory, which means I'm in a fairly good defensive position. The problem is that I cannot attack with anything. But well, technically I could maze my own creatures, but what I get out of it is not that much. And I do not really want to be playing much lands. I don't want to be giving them more land tax activations here. And there is a second crusade. That's not good. That's not good. No, even the smallest creature is gonna be much bigger than the stuff I have. This game may be getting out of hand fairly quickly. Opponents attacking with both. Now, I have something to say about that, and that is the second Psionic Blast. And that knight is gonna go away, and the Clergy of the Holy Nimbus is gonna be stuck in the maze. I'm down to 18 life again, and let's see now, can I take advantage of this? The situation is looking dire in that sense that if they get a good creature at this point, it's gonna be a problem. I do not have that many ways of getting rid of them. We used 2 of the Psionic Blasts already, so we are kind of screwed in that sense. It's a Fear Falcons. Again, same problem with the Phantasmal Forces. The 1 toughness isn't gonna cut it. It's just too small. The desert's gonna keep all my attackers at bay. The best top deck at this point probably would be the Sunken City, as that would allow me to kind of get the damage done, get the creatures past the desert, and get them connecting properly. But my opponent's not really showing anything either. Now, is this game gonna go long with neither of us doing anything, or is someone gonna quickly top deck something good and change the whole outcome of the match? And tough choices, tough choices. My opponent's attacking with the Clergy, but this time I'm actually gonna block. Pay to prevent the regeneration, and there is a simple reason why I want to do this. I want to get my mana open. Because at this point, I don't want to be playing any more lands. I don't want to give them land tax activations, but that 5 mana, that is the golden spot for my best spells. And I do believe there is an air elemental in my hand right now, because there's no other way I would be kind of releasing that mana. But sure, it is possible that that's kind of the only few moments I can actually deal with the Clergy. And yeah, 5 mana, air elemental. Now I have a clock that can actually do something. 4 toughness creature can get past the desert, can get some damage done. Now, all I'm afraid is if they are gonna be playing their own Serra Angel, which, with the help of those 2 Crusades, is gonna be a nightmare to deal with. My only options basically would be just bounce it every turn, but that's not the case. That's another Wrath of God, and my creatures are going away again. Yeah, I've been pretty unlucky with those. None of my good creatures are getting anything done, and Wraths are gonna be hitting me all the time. 7 Alliance for my opponent. The first threat is not the issue. The mace can handle that. But if there's gonna be more, that's gonna be a problem. But for me, that's control magic, and that is what I want, because if they're not gonna get anything else, that 7 Alliance is now 4/3. It is a good creature, but that's not gonna... My luck is just rotten today. There's a decent chance immediately to that control magic getting their lion back. Yeah, I'm not hitting my good cards, and they're hitting their best cards right after me. Now, let's see if I can turn this ship around at all, or is this just circling down the drain and getting done, over and done with. And they get the strip mine as well. My Maze of It is now gone, and the lion is gonna be pounding that damage. I can't even use my Miseros Factory because I was all tapped out. Yeah, this is also the problem with the Color Clash tournament. Either a good thing or a bad thing that all non-basic lands are restricted, which means that is the only Maze of It I have in my deck, so there's not gonna be another way for me to defend for their attacks, and that's also gonna be the only Miseros Factory I have, so no buffs for it either. Right now, I could activate the factory and pump itself, but that's gonna be a risky move. And my opponent's just churning out creature after creature. Yeah, this game is not looking good. This is not looking good at all. There's a boomerang. And what are we bouncing? We're bouncing the new lion. I think I may want to be dealing a little bit of damage with that factory, but there is a sunken city, so now the falcon's gonna do something. And yep, factory activation, getting 4 damage through. That's not nothing, but at this point I'm kinda screwed. And my opponent's got something, and there's the disenchant. But the good question is, what are you gonna disenchant? You could take out the Mishra's factory, which is 2 turns of my clock every turn, and a creature that could potentially block the 7 Alliance, or they can take out the Sunken City, which would mean they can use the desert on my falcons and get rid of that. Now this is actually a really good question, like which of these is more dangerous in the long run? Because if I do get more and more creatures, like top decking a flying men and more falcons and other good creatures, that's gonna be, the Sunken City is gonna do more. And my opponent's thinking that exact same thing. The Sunken City is the valuable card here, and the Falcon's gonna get the damage from the desert, dying at the end of combat, but at least I get 3 points at this time in. And we are, of course, we saw the 7 Alliance that was there before. That is going to be coming back. My factory may not be able to attack anymore. It's going to probably have to jump block and bump itself to at least trade with one of the lions. But at this point, the situation is not looking really good for me. It is highly possible that this game is already over and my opponent just needs to finish things out. And even more little creatures popping in. Yeah, I think at this point we are done. I get a strip mine, which came just a little too late. If I could have gotten that strip mine down much earlier, I could have gotten that desert out, I could have dealt some more damage, but unfortunately that's not the case. And there is the third crusade. Yeah, I think this is the point we can just we can call it a day. I can jump something, but damage is still gonna be insanely large, and one unsummon to get rid of another lion. So the Clergy of the Holy Nimbus is the only thing that's gonna be hitting me. I am down, almost down to dead. I don't think there's anything I can do at this point. 3 creatures, mace is gone, I'm basically screwed, and there's a land as well. Yeah, that is game number 2 for the white deck, and we are done here. Well, there you have it. 0 and 4 for this deck, and I guess it's time to finally admit that this idea needed a lot more work to be a good deck. White is especially difficult for this deck, as they seem to have better anthems, better removal, and better threats. The only thing we have is the fact that we can fly, but and then there's Sarah Angel, who does that even better as well. So what does this mean to this deck? First, add counter spells. They are good for a reason, and this deck really needed them. Second, we don't really have a way of getting stuff off the board once it's landed there. Adding a Tim or 2 could have helped in many situations, and for those buffs, either go all out on the unstable mutations and accept the occasional 2-for-1 removal, or go with more sunken cities for the anthem effects. It is possible that if you want to build a strong blue color clash deck, you need to go with real control plan. Blue creatures, they just aren't that strong, which means you have to find another avenue. Maybe board control, block pieces, or something like that. Cards like Control Magic, Land Equilibrium, or even a Backfire could be a more interesting and effective way to go. But this was a fun experiment. You can always learn as much from your losses as you can from your wins, and now I know that this is not the way to build a strong deck. And with that, we close the books for this Color Clash tournament. Next in line for the North Star Cup is Atlantic Old School, and I need to hit the books to see what I will be building for that event. Thank you for visiting the Shivan Library, and I hope to see you here all again.